So, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us on Thoughts on Thursdays. And if you're watching us later on YouTube, be sure to like us and subscribe and make sure to leave comments. And this is a group where we'll meet for about 30 minutes and we talk about a variety of different topics that are kind of spiritual and esoteric and metaphysical. And today we're actually talking about forgiveness. And I'll start by reading a couple quotes, or one quote. The crucial point is by changing ourselves, we change the world. As we become more loving on the inside, healing occurs on the outside. Much like the rising of the sea level lifts all ships, so the radiance of unconditional love within the human heart lifts all life. And that's from David Hawkins, Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender. And then the other thing that we sent out for people to consider is the I'm not sure if I can say this properly, Ho'oponopono, and that is a Hawaiian practice of forgiveness, and it's basically made up of four phrases: "I love you," "I'm sorry," "Please forgive me," and "Thank you." And I've heard them in different orders, but and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get going. But I'd just like to turn the floor over to anybody who wants to share. And we have a couple of people who are fairly new, so welcome and thanks for joining us. And just to reiterate, what we try to do is if we want to share, we'll either put our hand up or use the react function and raise hand so that um, we don't kind of like just jump over each other. So, Doreen, go ahead. I see you have your hand up, so thanks.
Yeah, might as well get right into it. I, speaking of forgiveness, one of my big forgivenesses over the past few years is about just forgiving the concept of mind control. And I'm going to define forgiveness as a byproduct of what happens when you are non-judgmentally aware of something, whatever it is. So for me, forgiveness isn't something you can even do or have. It just happens if you're judgmentally aware of it. So yeah, the neurology, especially right now, like Mary, your comment too, my brain's feeling a little, we're all just a little chaotic right now. So I am non-judgmentally aware of the concept and usage of mind control because it can be powerfully positive. And so I am grateful that there's mind control because I can control my own mind. But I am non-judgmentally aware of others who would like to control my mind and who would like to control the minds of others. That's just kind of where I'm at right now.
And that sounds like it brings you some peace. So that's like the main thing I would imagine. And hi, welcome, Anka. Glad you can make it. And so, not sure if I want to go down this rabbit hole or not. Should I ask you what you mean by mind control, or do you want to just not even go there?
Well, I mean, I don't know that we need to go there. I think it probably means something different to each person.
Mhm.
So maybe we can just keep it light for now because it is a rabbit hole, a bit of a rabbit hole. I guess it could be. So we'll just keep it light for now.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Thanks. Thanks. And I like that non-judgmental observation because you're right. That really, I find that helpful too. So good. And Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that before you can get to the place of forgiveness, I think you firstly have to include yourself in the equation because, and I'll go back to the 12-step program themes and ways of exploring things. One of the steps in the 12-step program, doesn't matter which 12-step program it is, became willing to make amends to such people, except when to do so would injure them or others. So that means I have to first be willing. So that is step number one. If I'm not willing to take a step toward, then nothing will happen on any level. So I have to, own whatever it is that I have done or said, or amend an action which I have taken, which I cannot change. And then I have to be willing to take a step toward. So that could mean connecting with someone to begin a conversation. Again, like in everything, I can't program what the outcome might be. Nothing might happen. Recently in my family, I had kind of a reunion with someone I hadn't seen for many, many years. And I had always been in touch with her mother for quite some time, especially during COVID. And then all of a sudden, the door just slammed, just shut tight. And I really didn't understand why that may have happened. So this was her daughter. So I asked her daughter how her mother was doing. And as it turned out, she had undergone two different surgeries, one to replace a knee and one to replace a shoulder. And, when I shared that I hadn't really heard from this person for quite some time, her daughter, who's my cousin, said, "Oh, well, I would know if it was something personal that maybe you had done or said, or," and I felt all of a sudden kind of more relaxed about it because I thought, gee, I didn't really know if I had said or done anything that was offensive or may have been interpreted in a way which was, wasn't intended, or I had no harmful intention. So kind of the condensed version is admitted my mistake, uh, as I said, owning it and being willing to open the door and see what might happen. And if I really truly am in my heart willing to make the amend, and I really do feel sorry for having done whatever it was, sorry is kind of a loaded word. We can say sorry about all kinds of things, but do we really mean it? That's another thing. Are you truly sorry? So anyway, we'll leave it at that for now. And yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Renee. I'd like that perspective of the being willing, taking the step. Um, and that almost seems like the other side of forgiveness. It almost seems like you're asking for forgiveness, but that's still, such an important thing, and being willing to forgive yourself for some of those things. So thanks for sharing all that. Mary.
Yeah, it just, and I had the feeling Gina was thinking of this too, that sorry is the hardest word. There's that song. Um, it's a sad, sad situation, but it's such a relief to forgive yourself. And I think you have to forgive yourself first before you can forgive others. It's just like loving yourself before you can truly love. And to go back to the Hawkins quote, that's how we change the world. When we let go of all this negativity and attachment to the past, we raise the boats in the water. We raise the level of consciousness. And for myself, that's my job here. I get all tied up in, how am I going to make more money? How am I going to do this? How will I help these people here? And it's all about me, really. How do I change myself so that the rest of the world can share in whatever it is I gain from that?
That's beautiful, Mary. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And to me, that sounds like, kind of getting your ego out of the way.
Yeah.
And we can get so stuck with, oh, that person really hurt me. They were
Yeah.
so wrong that to do something like that to me. And it's easy to get stuck in that mindset. And one of the things I like about the Ho'oponopono is that you're really saying that. And I met a woman who who studied with one of the guys from Hawaii who really had a big difference about come about when he started practicing that. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story that I heard about that. But there was a gentleman, his name was Ha Len. He was a physician in Hawaii. And he went to work at a institution, like a mental institution. And apparently he went in, it was a really horrible place. They had a lot of trouble. And he went in and would just say that over and over again to himself and others. He didn't really go even see the clients or the patients. He just sat in his office and looked through their files and said that comment to himself. And slowly the inmates became so much better. Many of them were discharged, and eventually the hospital was closed down because they didn't have any clients. And a woman who had worked and studied with him was telling me that he would say that to himself and focus that towards himself. Um, I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. And it was speaking to himself for creating this situation out there. And I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past, where we look at the perspective of I am God and I'm creating all of you from my mind and from my consciousness. And that's kind of how he saw it. She said it's almost like using the windshield, cleaning off the windshield of your mind to see things more clearly, but really what's happening is you're cleaning the inside. And so that approach, and it kind of goes with what you were saying, Mary, as far as, lighting your own self and focusing on self-forgiveness and everything that I've created. Uh, I just want the peace and the love to shine through. So I'm going to put a link in the chat that talks about the website that this physician, and he wasn't the one who invented the saying, but he took it and used it to an extent. So Gino, go ahead.
Two things. One, little levity. I don't know if you remember the movie Love Story from 1970. And the famous quote was, love means never having to say you're sorry. And the writers meant that with all their heart and not realizing what they were saying. We used to laugh at that so much. And and so the other thing is that in self-forgiveness, especially in the last year or so, I've done a lot of that. And over the years, I would think, God, I did a lot of stupid things. I did that. I did that. That's stupid, right? Like I was the only one. And then every now and then somebody comes up with something they did, and I say, wait a minute, we're all in the same boat here. We all do these so-called stupid things, we forgive ourselves and clean it up and so forth. So recently, this is something I thought I had forgiven myself like 35, 40 years ago. And a friend of mine passed away, and it brought back to me a lot of memories and stuff and what I did. And I felt really bad. And I thought, I haven't forgiven myself yet. I need to forgive myself on this. So we have to be wary of thinking that we forgave ourselves, and maybe we didn't. So there's probably a lot to do around that, depending on the situation.
Well, good for you for being aware of that. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Years ago, my husband and I facilitated these workshops on conscious aging, and there were 10 sessions. And welcome back, Anka. There were 10 sessions, and each one talked about a different subject. And they had 2 weeks on forgiveness. The first one was self-forgiveness, and then the following week was forgiveness of others. And one of the things they mentioned about self-forgiveness is how basically we are so hard on ourselves. and usually more hard on ourselves than we are on others. And you know, if you would think about how you talk to yourself, that self chatter that so many people have in their head, and if you were like a fly on the wall listening to yourself talk to yourself, you would like never talk to any of your friends that way. But it's okay to, you know, self-direct. So, you know, just being aware of that is, I find helpful. So go ahead, Turin.
Okay, so hopefully this is funny, but I am way harder on everyone else than I am on myself. I am like totally not hard on myself at all about anything. Um, and I just, I don't know, that just made me laugh. Like I'm very hard on, I don't know, maybe I should just leave it at that. But one thing that also came to my mind, Barbara, you were talking about conscious aging, and as I'm purposely taking control over my own mind, and the idea of just radically picturing myself in the future. I've always been aware that I've never done that. I just cruise because I like myself. I totally like myself. I love being around myself. I'm not hard on myself. I don't judge myself. I've never had any clue about guilt or shame. And I know that's a big one with a lot of people. But one thing I've never really done is I don't radically imagine myself in the distant future. I always just rely on my present self to cruise along and just create whatever. Um, so yeah, that's going to be changing a little bit. So I'm glad that you do those just consciously being aware of time. Travel really is what that is.
Time travel, is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of is, if you're aging consciously, you're kind of traveling back and forth in time, forgiving your past self or whatever, seeing recreating your past self, being with your present self, creating your future self. To me, that was what that meant when you shared.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And there are components of that. I hear you. Cool. Okay. Gino, go ahead.
Just wanted to say kudos to you, Durin, for not being on that page of berating yourself, denying yourself, thinking you're a really bad person and all that. That's fantastic. Um, I think, throughout life I've seen people that just have this fantastic confidence about themselves, but not in an arrogant way or ignorant way. And I always wonder, where did they get those chromosomes? Where did they get that cellular matter to be that way? I've been working so hard to do that, I can't. But anyway, so good for you, Durin.
Yeah, I agree, Gino. Yeah. And that is unusual, Durin, but there's nothing wrong with it at all. So, although it's interesting that you say you're so much harder on other people, but that's your thing. So,
What I mean by that is I can see when people are not dealing with their stuff.
mhm.
And then I get upset because I'm highly sensitive, and often I end up being the one that processes things.
Mhm.
And so that's when I get kind of mad. So, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you find that takes a lot of energy, just that anger and kind of having to step back away from them?
It is at the moment, because right now I think what we're all contending with is I guess this will be a little bit of an extension of what I'm talking about mind control, the media and politics. That is what I am actively not judging. And other people's imaginations. I'll look at someone's imagination and I'm like, God dang, I can't even, wow, that's what I mean about being harder on others, because
Mhm.
it's hard for me to receive the imaginations that are out there.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I found lately for me, I'm observing everything that's going on, almost like I'm watching something on a stage. It's like I remember, studying history in school and hearing about things that happened in the past that were so bizarre. And it's like, oh my God, how could the people let those things happen? Why didn't somebody stop them? Or how could that person do that? And now I feel like we're kind of plopped right into the middle of that same scenario. But and I am kind of just observing from a distance and thinking, that person's time's going to come and they're going to, it's like, I remember, like after World War II, they had the Nuremberg trials and things like that. And it's like, yeah, this is gonna, this will happen and they're going to be stepping up and, I find that it's easier for me now to just step back and observe from a different perspective. And I think a lot of that is the understanding of just our awareness, that like, the group of us that are here talking about how, there's our finite being and everything, all the craziness that's happening, but there's also that infinite part of us,
Yeah.
that infinite really wholeness of us that can help carry us and hold us to, at least for me, help me stay a little bit more sane. So,
I'm very grateful that I'm in the age group that I'm in. I think it makes what's going on right now easier, at least for me. I can't imagine being in my 20s or 30s or 40s and having this chaos.
Mhm.
I don't know if I would how well I would have done in it. I guess I won't ever, but yeah, I'm super grateful. Speaking of conscious aging, that was a choice that I picked. I chose to be this age at this time because I knew the chaos and I wanted to be grounded and I wanted to know what it was like before. And I really appreciate my childhood now with its imperfections. I'm super grateful.
yeah, that's actually a good perspective. And yeah, I agree. I feel young people these days, it makes me feel like an old stodgy saying that, saying this, but yeah, young people do these days have got it rough. So, yeah. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of time, but anybody else have any other comments around forgiveness and what it means to them or what it brings up? Billy, I actually was wondering if you were going to talk about that book that you had mentioned in the past, the Crying Tree.
Yeah, the crying tree, and I haven't gone back and looked at that. I think that's separate for when I can pay attention to it. I'm busy cat sitting this week.
Oh, okay.
Um, but forgiveness, I'll just state my little thing. I call it the F word because it is so difficult. And I think somewhere, and I'm not a biblical person, but I think there's a reference in the Bible, um, like to forgive 7 times 70 or something like that, which sounds ridiculous when you think about it. But forgiveness, um, for me, is more for me than it is for the other person. And I think a lot of people think, well, if I forgive them, then whatever they did is okay. And it's not. I mean, the act is not okay. But if you forgive them, whatever, it puts a level of separation there so that you don't have those feelings that create so much chaos. And I've had some spiritual teachers talk about it, and it's really, really hard when you've been wronged by somebody and we're justified in the feelings and stuff. But if you can step back and try not to have those emotions and realize what you can control and what you can't, and then the 7 times 70, I've had a couple of situations where they did this and they said these things and they were so mean and blah 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 blah. And it's like, oh, I need to just forgive this person. That's who they are. I've separated myself from them. And I've had a number of instances where, like, years later, something will come up, and I'm like, oh, I guess I have to do this again.
Mhm.
And I have to pat myself on the back because a couple of situations, a couple of people, even though it shocked me, and I'm like, holy crap, I thought I took care of that. And so I did the forgiveness thing again. And you don't have to talk to them, you don't have to approach them, you don't have to have contact with them. Um, and now, and I've been thinking about this for a while, so the topic came up. It's like, I'm not having any of that crap because that's that, and I'm taking care of me. So, as difficult as it is, it's a really good practice. And, again, you don't have to say it's okay on their part for yourself. And it's so freeing.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful, Billy. Thank you. That's true. It is so freeing. So I appreciate that. There's a couple things in the chat I'm going to read, and then let's see. So Julie, I'll let your hands up, so I'll let you read that when we get to you. And Renee says, "Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it." And that's from Mark Twain. And that's beautiful. So yes, thanks, Renee. That's a nice quote. And then I have another quote. Katina couldn't join us today, but she asked me to share this with you guys. Forgiveness does not require that you restore that person to their original standing in your life. And that kind of goes a little bit with what you were saying, Billy. So it is really freeing for yourself. So go ahead, Jules.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment to Billy that everything she said was so right on for me because I had uh, when you said somebody did you wrong, something hurt you, and that's what happened to me. And it took me it took me a long time, I feel, like close to a year to catch that freedom, where I finally, and what you said about it not bringing that person back to where they are or whatever, it gave me a feeling of like just a big sigh, and that I was okay with that now, and I find that I'm still trying to figure out how to forgive myself or what that actually means, but I certainly have an easier time. I know that someone said that you can't forgive anybody until you forgive yourself. So if I did this forgiveness, I must have forgave myself for something. So anyway, that's pretty much but thank you, Billy. I loved everything you said. Could relate.
Yeah, yeah. And Joel, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And a lot of what we do is baby steps, you do baby steps. You move a little bit forward and a little bit back, and that's kind of the dance of life, I think. So, yeah. Okay, we're almost actually out of time, but Doreen, you want to just wrap up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if this is wrapping up, but I was reminded, Billy and Poems reminds me of a poem that Billy was reading a couple of weeks ago, the sort of longer one. And there was a part there where I totally just released some laughter. And it had to do with beware of folks who come to you offering you something and saying it's for your own benefit when really it's for their profit. And that was like, yep. So that's for me. And I think that's a general big forgiveness. We need to be aware. It's really healthy to be aware of that exists, and it's everywhere, and it's fucking annoying. But I forgive it because I'm completely aware of it now. I can just not judge it and just be aware of it. Forgiveness happens.
Mhm.
And I can see how that would be really helpful. And Mary, go ahead. And then
I'm
we'll
just going to
close.
close this. I think I have a thing to say. That the world is so generous to us. The universe is so generous. It's given us a gazillion opportunities to forgive. All the time they're coming at us. So we must need the practice because there's so much out there to forgive.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a beautiful comment to end on. A beautiful thing to think about. So many opportunities to forgive. So yeah, I like that. And thanks everybody for being with us today. I appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same station. Bye bye.
Bye.
Here you go.
Bye now.